Hello, and welcome to Unity Church on the Mountain from my home. The title of the talk today will be Chickpea Soup. But before that, let's begin by affirming together our opening statement. There is only one presence and one power in my life and the universe, God. Breathing in deeply and letting go. And again, breathing in and releasing. We relax into this now moment. And we choose to give this time to Spirit. We can let go of whatever thoughts we may have of the past. And we can let go of any thought of what is yet to come in the day. And just join together in this moment with Spirit. And together let us affirm the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. So you may be wondering about the title of the talk this day. Chickpea Soup. And what does that mean? And how does that apply to our spiritual growth? Well, I'll tell you. It comes from the title of a poem written by the Sufi mystic named Rumi. You see, over the past few weeks, I've been dealing with exercises at a very basic and detailed level. And today, this poem inspires thought of bringing that idea to a little bit more of a broad perspective on our spiritual growth. I think it can help us to see how these practical exercises can be better put to use, and a little bit of what is going on with how they work. So I would like to begin by just reading the poem. And then I'll break down some individual parts of it and see how it can be applied. So the title of the poem is Chickpea to Cook. This translation is by a fellow named Coleman Barks. Coleman Barks. A chickpea leaps almost over the rim of the pot where it's being boiled. Why are you doing this to me? The cook knocks him down with the ladle. Don't you try to jump out. You think I'm torturing you. I'm giving you flavor so you can mix with spices and rice and be the lovely vitality of a human being. Remember when you drank rain in the garden? That was for this. Grace first, sexual pleasure, then a boiling new life begins. And the friend has something good to eat. Eventually, the chickpea will say to the cook, "Boil me some more. Hit me with the skimming spoon. I can't do this by myself. I'm like an elephant that dreams of gardens back in Hindustan and doesn't pay attention to his driver. You're my cook, my driver, my way into existence. I love your cooking." And the cook says, "I was once like you, fresh from the ground. Then I boiled in time and boiled in the body, 2 fierce boilings. My animal soul grew powerful. I controlled it with practices and boiled some more, and boiled once beyond that, and became your teacher." On the surface, it's a story about a cook cooking chickpea soup and literally having a conversation with the chickpea in the soup. Okay, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. So how can we read this poem in a way that has more meaning? I'll start with the title. When I first picked up the poem and read it, I read the title as Chickpea to Cook, being something more like the chickpea is talking to the cook, or this is a conversation between chickpea and cook. But as I read the poem more than once, the meaning of the title changed. Chickpea to Cook is about a transformation. It could be about our transformation, each individual person's transformation from the chickpea, a seed, into a cook. The cook being that fully realized being that we all have as our perfect potential. And that's what's symbolized by the Tau cross. You may have noticed that I started wearing a Tau cross instead of the more traditional cross or the Celtic cross. You see, in Greek, it's Alpha and Omega, the seed to the end. In Hebrew, it's Aleph to Tau. Aleph, Tau. And this is a Tau. Of course, it's a Greek letter Tau, but it comes from the Hebrew. The beginning and the end. That final realization of the truth of who we are and our spiritual mastery. So this poem promises to be about that spiritual transformation. So let's break it down a little bit at a time. The chickpea leaps almost over the rim of the pot where it's being boiled. So when I think of a boiling pot of soup, I look down into the pot and I see the surface and it's rolling. It's not a still, calm surface. There is this rolling. There's bubbles as the steam rises from the bottom of the pot and escapes past the surface. It has popped this pea up, and so that it appears like a jump. This boiling shows us a movement. We're not talking about something static. No, this is a movement process. And life, as much as we may want it to stay the same, we know that nothing stays the same except change. This life is a boiling. And the chickpea cries out, "Why are you doing this to me?" From the perspective of the chickpea, there is not this understanding of why he has to be boiled. And the cook knocks him down with the ladle and says, "Don't try to jump out. You think that I'm torturing you. I'm giving you flavor. You can mix with the spices and the rice and be the loving vitality of a human being. Remember when you drank in the garden? It was all preparation for this." So there's this chickpea. At the beginning, his life was in the garden. He had water to drink and nutrients from the soil. But he wasn't realizing his full potential. He was just growing into a seed. The seed is a beginning of a growth. It's kind of explained in this next section. Grace first, sexual pleasure, then a boiling new life begins. Grace first. It was good. We had that loving. We had that peace. We even had this pleasure of the sun shining. The feeling of the nice gentle breezes. But then there's this boiling. And it's difficult from the perspective of a seed to understand why this boiling. But eventually the chickpea says to the cook, "Boil me some more. Boil me some more." There has been this change of perspective. Let me explain. There's a story I'd like to tell right here that comes from the life of St. Francis. This story is told on the journey that St. Francis made to the area from Italy to the Middle East during the Crusades. You see, he had a calling from Spirit to visit the Sultan, who was the leader of the infidels. The Sultan was the equivalent of, let's say, a king over the Muslims, who were at this time the enemy of the Christian crusade. And Francis, who was doing his best to live as Jesus taught, wanted to bring peace. And so he was called by Spirit to make this journey to visit the Sultan. And he thought surely that if he could talk to the Sultan, he could express this love and this unity that we all have and end this struggle of conflict. So along the way, there was another friar, Leo, who wanted to make this journey with Francis. Leo had been tasked by the other friars. They call themselves we like to call them Franciscans. I don't think they called themselves at that time. They're known within themselves as the Order of the Friars Minor. But these brothers wanted to be able to remember Francis after he was gone. And so they asked Leo, who was a gifted painter, to make a portrait of St. Francis. And St. Francis, not wanting to be, at this time he wasn't yet a saint, we have to remember that, but we think of him as St. Francis. He didn't want to be set aside, put on this pedestal, because it wasn't about him. He was merely an instrument for Spirit. Spirit working through him. So he refused to sit for the painting. So anyhow, Leo thought, well, if I journey with Francis on this journey, I'll have plenty of opportunity to get these quiet moments and actually begin sketching out for the painting that I will do. And one day on the journey, they had made the voyage over boat, and they were actually in the Middle East, and they weren't sure if they were in Christian territory yet or if they had crossed over into the Muslim area. And they sat down. Francis sat down on a rock to rest, and Leo, noticing his poised nature, sat down there below the rock and brought out his sketching pad and began to sketch this portraiture. Leo, thinking about all of their conversations, and they had many conversations as they were making this journey, he put down his sketching pad and said, I can't do this anymore. And Francis asked him, what is it that you cannot do? It seems to be such a contradiction. God doesn't just accept everyone. There are plenty of people who are good. They have charity and they do these good things. And so God rewards them with his acceptance. But then there are other people who do these evil acts. And surely God doesn't just accept them too. They deserve punishment. Well, Francis got up off of his rock, walked over a few steps, and give Leo a swift kick in the leg. I mean, a hard kick. It startled Leo, and he got up from his seating position. He said, why have you done this? Why have you assaulted me like this? What have I done to deserve such a thing? Francis sat back down on his rock and told him, just this moment, a memory came back to me from a dream that I had last night. And in this dream, you struck a blow to me in the head and knocked me to the ground. Having this memory, I'm just paying you back. This is your punishment for knocking me to the ground. And Leo said, but that was a dream. I didn't do this to you. And it dawned on him. He considered the things that they had been talking about this nature of what is real and what is dream. And that this oneness that we have, this connection that we have with everyone is the real world. And that we are in these separate bodies, walking around and doing these things is really the dream. And Leo says to Francis, I see now. It was right for you to kick me. I have forgotten. You see, the chickpea sometimes needs to be boiled, to be struck with that ladle, knocking them back into this roiling boil of life. Because all of our experiences in life are there because Spirit. I want you to remember, when I say Spirit, I'm not talking about some being, some Superman that lives on the cloud and rains judgment down on us and punishes us. And that story with Francis might bring that to your mind. So I want to bring us back to this idea that Spirit is within us. That Spirit is this cook. That the chickpea and the cook are both within us. We have that perfect potential always with us. That as a seed born, we don't always remember this. But we don't have to find it as if it is lost, because it's always there with us. We as the chickpea, listen to this. I cannot do this by myself, this chickpea is saying. I'm like an elephant that dreams of gardens back in Hindustan and doesn't pay attention to his driver. So who is this driver but that perfect potential within us? Spirit, our guide. The chickpea says, I can't do this by myself. You're my cook. You're my driver. My way into existence. I love your cooking. We can't grow from that seed that we are born as, that pure essence, without the guidance from Spirit. You see, we receive all of these things from the external world as we're growing. And we need that boiling to spur us into action. That boiling to make us realize that we cannot do it by ourselves. This is what the cook says. I was once like you, fresh from the ground. Then I boiled in time. I boiled in the body 2 fierce boilings. The animal soul, that ego consciousness grew powerful. We learned in our education, our animal soul learned how to survive. But I controlled it with practices. I controlled it. I used that welcoming practice, that centering prayer, that affirmative prayer. I used that technique to follow the line, these practices, affirmations, and denials. I used these spiritual tools. And I boiled some more, because without this boiling, there's nothing for us to practice with. And I boiled once more beyond that, because I thought I was done and I could do it. But I know that's not true, because I need help. So I boiled some more and became your teacher. I realized that full potential, that Christ within. I realized that full potential, that image of God that was created in me at the dawn of what we call time. I laugh because time. But that's another whole talk. Maybe we'll get to talk about time some time in the future. I ask for gentle and easy lessons Maybe that boiling doesn't have to be so hot. I will gain this flavor with gentle and easy lessons. And I've noticed something in my daily walk. I've noticed that when I'm watching a movie or a video series, Lucretia and I have been watching Heartland. And there are times when I can live through these characters. Even it could be a book, if you're reading a book, or a well-made movie. If you notice yourself that you're beginning to have the same feelings that's going through these characters. Notice that when they get upset or there's a tense moment, notice if your body becomes tense. This can be a very easy way to have a gentle, easy, and fun lesson. Because it's just a movie. It's easy when we're watching a movie to see that it's only play. And we can play with that. And we can observe how these different emotions affect us. And we can go through the welcoming practice. We can follow the line. All of these things at a movie. So I do encourage the spirit breaks throughout the day. But this week, if you find yourself watching a program on television or a movie, to check in with your body. How are you reacting to the emotional states of the characters in the movie? If it's a well-made movie, you'll probably find that you are following the same emotional states as the characters in the movie. And they make really effective, gentle, and easy lessons. Don't take my word. Give it a try. The song I'd like to sing today is one you've heard me sing before, but I really like this song. It's called Protanoia. It's first thought. And it's this first thought that began that vibration that becomes this whole life process that we find ourselves in. So that boiling at the top of the soup comes from that heat of the first thought as it rises from the bottom of the soup. And it's ongoing. This is not some thought that was had in the past and is done. This first thought continues each moment. We can find it in each and every now moment. As we take our spirit breaks, we can go within and we can realize that silence. That first thought, it says, I am a voice speaking softly. I exist from the first. I dwell within the silence that surrounds everyone. Although she dwells alone, since she is perfect. Remember, we are that chickpea, and we're the cook. Isn't it beautiful? And isn't the simplicity of it part of that beauty? So take a moment to just quiet your mind. Let those thoughts move into your unconscious. Allow your discerning mind to pick and choose what it is from the talk that needs to be put into practical use in your life. As you just enjoy the song. movement that dwells in the all invisible one within thee. Oh, protonoia, protonoia, I am a voice speaking softly. I exist from the first. I dwell within the silence that surrounds every one of them. Protonoia, protonoia, and it is a hidden voice that dwells within me, within thee, within me, within thee. Silence she is, called by three names. Although she dwells alone, since she is perfect. Protonoia, protonoia, protonoia. Gentle and easy lessons. Find them this week as you're watching a movie, as you're watching your favorite television program, or reading your favorite book. Discover, is your body reacting to the emotions of the characters? That is your opportunity to practice our spiritual tools. What a gentle boiling it is when it's just a movie. But remember this, that lesson that Leo learned. There is only one true reality, and in that reality, we are love. We are loved. We are that love. We give that love and we receive that love freely, and there is always enough. Separation, pain, anxiety, judgments, all come from without. They happen when we forget, when we allow ourselves to be asleep. But all we need do is awaken. And these spirit breaks are opportunities that we give ourselves through our daily lives, through that daily practice, through what is called our walk, to remember the truth of who we are, to awaken, if only for the moments of our spirit breaks. Let us affirm together our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love. The power of God protects us. I am the power. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Thank you.